My hand was on the door handle when I first caught the scent of the cabin. Pine, leather, and something else. Something sharper, deeper. An alpha scent. My heart sank. This cabin was supposed to be empty. The maps had shown it as abandoned, but this scent was fresh, maybe 2 or 3 days old at most. I pressed my hands against my stomach, where my small secret was safe, and took a long breath. I had run so far, crossed state lines, changed aliases, erased my identity, and now I might have hidden in the one place I shouldn't have, but I had no other choice. Outside, the rain was getting heavier, the wind cutting through my jacket, and I was exhausted, physically, mentally, every possible way. So I pushed the door open. Inside was darkness, only the faint moonlight filtering through the window. The furniture was simple, a couch, a table, a fireplace. But everything was organized, intentional, like someone who controlled every detail. A hunter's touch. I dropped my bag and collapsed onto the couch. My head was pounding and I hadn't eaten properly in 2 days. But I couldn't sleep, not until I knew whether this place was truly safe. I checked my phone, no signal. Good. If they couldn't track me, then maybe no one else could either. Maybe. But as night fell, my body surrendered and my eyes began to close. My hand went to my stomach again and I whispered to myself, "We'll be okay. I promise." Morning came before I was ready. I knew I wasn't alone before I even opened my eyes. That scent returned, but this time stronger, fresher, right here. And when I finally opened my eyes, the shadow stood before me, tall, solid, and dangerous. His cold blue-gray eyes were fixed on me and his voice was low and threatening when he spoke. "You shouldn't have been here, Omega." I tried to move, but my body was frozen. The man before me was exactly what I feared. An alpha hunter. His build was intimidating, his presence overwhelming. He wore dark clothes that blended with the shadows, and there was a rifle leaning against the wall behind him. This wasn't some random stranger. This was someone who knew what he was doing, someone who hunted people like me for a living. I didn't know anyone lived here. I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. "The maps said it was abandoned." "Maps lie," he said simply, stepping closer. "And you're trespassing." I swallowed hard. "I'll leave, right now. Just let me go." He studied me for a long moment, his eyes scanning me from head to toe. There was something clinical about his gaze, like he was assessing a target. "You're Liam Hart," he said finally. It wasn't a question. My blood ran cold. How did he know my name? I hadn't used it in months. I'd been careful, so careful. "I don't know what you're talking about," I lied, but my voice betrayed me. "Don't insult my intelligence," he said, crossing his arms. "You've been running for 6 months. There's a bounty on your head, and now you've walked right into my cabin." I felt dizzy. This was it. This was where it all ended. "Please," I said, hating how desperate I sounded. "Whatever they're paying you, you can what?" He interrupted. "You have nothing. No money, no resources, no backup. You're alone." He was right. I had nothing, but I had to try. "Then why are you talking to me? Why haven't you already called them?" For the first time, something shifted in his expression. It was subtle, a slight narrowing of his eyes, a tension in his jaw. "Because I want to know why," he said. "Why a pregnant Omega is running from a government facility. Why they want you badly enough to put this kind of price on your head. Why you'd risk everything to stay hidden." My breath caught. He knew I was pregnant. Of course he did. The scent would give it away to any alpha. I wrapped my arms around myself protectively. "That's none of your business." "It became my business when you broke into my cabin," he countered. "So start talking or I make that call right now." I looked into his eyes and saw no mercy there, only cold determination. But there was also something else. Curiosity, maybe, or calculation. Either way, I was trapped. "Fine," I said quietly. "But if I tell you, you have to promise you won't turn me in immediately." "I don't make promises to fugitives," he said flatly. "Then I have nothing to say to you." I stood up, my legs shaky but determined. If I was going down, I wouldn't go down begging. He watched me for a moment, then let out a frustrated breath. "Sit down. You're in no condition to run anywhere. I've been running for 6 months. I can keep going." "In the rain? With no food? While pregnant?" His voice rose slightly. You'll collapse before you reach the main road. I hated that he was right. My body was screaming at me to rest, to eat, to stop fighting. But my mind knew better. Trust no one, especially not an alpha hunter. Why do you care? I challenged. Just do your job and turn me in. Get your money. He stared at me for a long moment, something unreadable crossing his face. Then he walked to the kitchen area and started making coffee. Because, he said without looking at me, I don't turn in pregnant omegas. That's my rule. So whether I like it or not, you're stuck here until I figure out what to do with you. I didn't know whether to feel relieved or more terrified. And what does figure out mean exactly? He poured 2 cups of coffee and brought one over to me. It means you're going to tell me everything. Why you ran, what they did to you, and why you're worth more alive than dead. He set the cup down in front of me. And then maybe, I'll decide not to collect that bounty. I took the cup with trembling hands, the warmth seeping into my cold fingers. This alpha was different from what I expected. Dangerous, yes, but also calculated, controlled. He wasn't acting on impulse or greed. He was thinking several steps ahead. That made him either my best chance at survival or my worst nightmare. I just didn't know which yet. My name is Ronnie, he said, sitting across from me. And you have exactly 1 chance to convince me you're worth protecting instead of turning in. So make it count. I met his gaze and saw the challenge there. This was a test, and my life depended on passing it. I took a sip of coffee, gathering my thoughts, and began to speak. 6 months ago, I escaped from a research facility called Genesis Labs. They weren't studying medicine or biology. They were creating something else. Something they called the Perfect Omega Project. And I was one of their experiments. Ronnie's expression didn't change as I spoke, but I saw his fingers tighten slightly around his coffee cup. He was listening. Really listening. That was more than anyone had done in months. They took me when I was 19, I continued, my voice steadier now. I was homeless, desperate. They offered shelter, food, medical care. All I had to do was participate in some genetic research. I thought it meant blood tests. Maybe some questionnaires. I was wrong. What did they do? Ronnie's voice was quiet but sharp. I looked down at my stomach, my hand instinctively protective. They wanted to create omegas who could carry alpha children more successfully. Stronger pregnancies, higher survival rates, better genetic outcomes. They said it would revitalize reproduction. I laughed bitterly. What they didn't say was that they'd do it by force, by manipulation, by taking away every choice we had. Ronnie set his cup down slowly. You're saying this pregnancy wasn't consensual. I'm saying I don't even know whose child this is, I said, my voice cracking. They used artificial insemination. They never told me when, how, or who. I just woke up day and the tests were positive. And when I tried to ask questions, they sedated me, said it was for my own good. For the baby's good. The room was silent except for the rain pattering against the windows. Ronnie stood up and walked to the window, his back to me. How many others were there? 12. That I knew of. Maybe more in other facilities. I swallowed hard. Not all of them survived the procedures. The ones who did, they weren't themselves anymore. The drugs, the treatments, they changed something fundamental, made them compliant, broken. But not you, Ronnie observed, turning back to face me. I got lucky. A new nurse started working there. Someone with a conscience. She helped me escape during a facility-wide security update. Gave me clothes, money, a head start. Told me to mon and never look back. I met his eyes. She died 2 days later. They called it suicide. But I know better. Ronnie crossed his arms, his jaw tight. And the bounty? Why are they so desperate to get you back? I hesitated. This was the part that scared me most. Because I'm evidence, living proof of what they're doing. If I talk, if I go public, the entire operation gets exposed. Government contracts, private funding, powerful people, all of it comes crashing down. They can't let that happen. So they put a price on your head and hoped someone like me would do their dirty work. Ronnie said, his voice cold. Exactly. I stood up slowly, my legs still unsteady. Look, I know you don't owe me anything. You're a hunter. This is your job. But I'm not asking you to believe me out of kindness. I'm asking you to believe me because it's the truth. And if you turn me in, you're not just collecting a bounty. You're helping them continue what they're doing to others. Ronnie was quiet for a long time, his eyes searching my face. Show me proof. What? If what you're saying is true, you must have something. Documents, photos, anything that backs up your story. His tone wasn't accusatory, just practical. I reached into my jacket pocket, slowly, aware of how closely he was watching me. I pulled out a small USB drive, worn and scratched from months of being carried everywhere. Medical records, experiment logs, financial transactions. Everything I could grab before I ran. It's all encrypted, but it's there. Ronnie took the drive carefully, examining it. Why didn't you go to the authorities? 'Cause some of the names on those documents, they are the authorities. Police chiefs, senators, medical board directors. Genesis Labs has protection at every level. Going public would just get me killed faster. I wrapped my arms around myself. So I ran. I've been running ever since, changing locations, using cash only, avoiding cameras, until last night when I thought I'd found a safe place to rest. And instead you found me, Ronnie finished. Yeah. Instead I found you. I looked at him directly. So what now? Are you gonna turn me in or are you gonna help me? Because I need to know. Ronnie walked to his laptop and inserted the USB drive. I'm going to look at this information first. Then I'll decide. He glanced at me over his shoulder. In the meantime, you remain here. Not because I trust you, but because you're right in your condition. You wouldn't make it far. And despite what you might think, I'm not in the habit of sending pregnant people to their deaths. I didn't know what to make of that. You're a hunter. Isn't that literally your job sometimes? My job is tracking people down and bringing them in. What happens after that isn't my responsibility. He paused. Usually, but this situation is different. If what you're saying is true, then I'm not dealing with a simple fugitive case. I'm dealing with something much bigger. And if you decide I'm lying? I asked quietly. His eyes met mine, cold and serious. Then I collect the bounty and move on with my life. But if you're telling the truth, he turned back to the computer, then we have a much bigger problem to deal with. I sat back down, exhaustion washing over me. This wasn't how I'd imagined this conversation going. I'd expected immediate capture, violence maybe. Instead, I had an alpha hunter actually considering my story. It was more than I dared hope for. There's food in the kitchen, Ronnie said without looking up from the screen. Help yourself, you need to eat. I stood up slowly and made my way to the kitchen, my hand on my stomach. The baby kicked, a small flutter that reminded me why I was fighting so hard. Not just for myself anymore, for this life growing inside me, innocent and unaware of the dangers surrounding us. As I made a simple sandwich, I watched Ronnie from the corner of my eye. He was focused, methodical, scrolling through files with the precision of someone who knew exactly what to look for. This alpha was smart, capable, and dangerously perceptive. If anyone could help me, it might be him. But if anyone could destroy me, it would also be him. I took a bite of my sandwich and waited. The rain continued to fall outside, and somewhere in the distance, thunder rumbled. The storm wasn't over. Not outside, and definitely not inside this cabin. Whatever Ronnie decided in the next few hours would determine everything. My future, my baby's future, maybe even the futures of those still trapped in Genesis Labs. All I could do was wait and hope that for once, luck was on my side. The next morning arrived with weak sunlight filtering through the cabin windows. I had barely slept, my mind racing with possibilities and fears. Ronnie had spent most of the night reviewing the files I'd given him, barely speaking except to ask occasional clarifying questions. Now he sat at the table, coffee in hand, his expression unreadable. The files are legitimate, he said finally, breaking the silence. I cross-referenced the names and dates with public records. Everything checks out. Genesis Labs is real, and they've got connections that go deeper than I initially thought. I released a breath I didn't know I was holding. So you believe me? I believe the evidence, he corrected. Which means we have a serious problem. The people looking for you aren't just bounty hunters anymore. There's a coordinated effort involving multiple agencies, private contractors, and law enforcement. They've flagged your face in databases across 4 states. My stomach dropped. How bad is it? Bad enough that staying here more than another day would be suicide, Ronnie said bluntly. He pulled out a map and spread it on the table. I have a contact who runs a safe house about 200 miles north. He owes me a favor and doesn't ask questions. We can move you there, but the journey will be dangerous. Checkpoints, surveillance, the works. Why would you risk that for me? The question came out before I could stop it. You don't know me. You could just take the bounty and walk away. Ronnie looked at me directly, his blue-gray eyes intense. Because what they're doing at Genesis Labs is wrong. And if I turn you in, I'm complicit in that. I've done a lot of questionable things in my career, but I draw the line at human experimentation and forced pregnancy. He paused. Besides, you said there are others still trapped there. If we can get you somewhere safe, maybe we can do something about that. I repeated. You're actually going to help me. Don't get sentimental, he said sharply. This isn't charity. I'm helping you because it's the right strategic move. You have information that could bring down a corrupt organization. That's valuable, and keeping you alive keeps that information in play. I nodded slowly, understanding the transaction. He wasn't doing this out of kindness. He was doing it because it made tactical sense. I could work with that. When do we leave? Tonight, we'll travel after dark when surveillance is lighter. Pack light, only essentials. He stood up and walked to a closet, pulling out a duffel bag. I'll get supplies together. You should rest while you can. The trip will be rough. I spent the rest of the day trying to prepare mentally for what was coming. Ronnie moved around the cabin efficiently, gathering gear, checking weapons, making phone calls in low voices to contacts I couldn't hear. He was completely focused, professional. This was someone who had done dangerous work before and knew how to handle it. Around noon, he made lunch, simple sandwiches and soup, and we ate in relative silence. The tension in the air was palpable, but it wasn't hostile. It was the tension of two people about to embark on something risky together. Tell me about the baby, Ronnie said suddenly, surprising me. How far along are you? About 4 months, I answered, instinctively placing my hand on my stomach. The facility doctors monitored everything obsessively. Weekly ultrasounds, constant blood tests, genetic screenings. They were more interested in the baby than in me. Do you know the gender? No. I refused to let them tell me. I wanted something they couldn't control, even if it was just that small detail. I looked down. I know this sounds strange, but I talk to the baby sometimes. Tell them stories about what life will be like when we're free. I don't even know if they can hear me, but it makes me feel less alone. Ronnie's expression softened slightly, though he tried to hide it. That's not strange, it's survival. Keeping your humanity in an inhumane situation. We fell back into silence, but it felt different now. Less guarded, maybe. Or perhaps I was just desperate to believe I wasn't completely alone in this. As evening approached, Ronnie began final preparations. He handed me a jacket, waterproof and insulated, and a small backpack with basic supplies. Keep this on you at all times. If we get separated, there's cash, a burner phone with one programmed number, and basic first aid. Head north and call the number. Someone will come get you. What if something happens to you? I asked, the reality of danger hitting me. Then you're on your own, he said matter-of-factly. Which is why you need to pay attention to everything I tell you. No arguments, no hesitation. When I say move, move. When I say hide, you hide. Understood? Understood, I agreed, swallowing my fear. We left the cabin just after sunset, the sky painted in deep purples and oranges. Ronnie led the way through the forest rather than taking the main road, our footsteps muffled by fallen pine needles. He moved with practiced silence, constantly scanning our surroundings. I tried to keep up, but my pregnant body protested every steep incline and rough terrain. After about an hour, we reached a small clearing where an old truck was hidden under camouflage netting. This will get us past the first checkpoints, Ronnie explained, pulling the netting off. After that, we switch vehicles. You've done this before, I observed, more times than I'd like to admit. He opened the passenger door for me. Get in, and stay down once we're on the main road. If they're monitoring traffic cameras, your face can't show up. The drive was tense. Ronnie kept his eyes on the road and mirrors, his body language screaming alertness. I crouched low in the passenger seat, my heart pounding with every passing minute. We made it through one checkpoint without issue. Ronnie showed some kind of credentials that satisfied the guards, but I could feel his tension increasing as we approached the second checkpoint. Something's wrong, he muttered. "There are too many vehicles. This isn't normal." Before I could respond, flashing lights appeared ahead. A full roadblock. Multiple vehicles, armed personnel, searchlights sweeping the area. "They're looking for you," Ronnie said grimly. "They must have tracked something. Get ready to move." "Move where?" I asked, panic rising. "Into the woods. There's a service road half a mile east. If we can reach it before they spot us, we have a chance." He pulled the truck off the road into a small dirt path, killing the lights. "Stay close to me, and whatever happens, keep moving forward. Don't look back." We abandoned the truck and plunged into the darkness of the forest. Behind us I heard shouting, dogs barking, engines revving. They knew we were here. The hunt had begun, and this time I wasn't running alone. Ronnie grabbed my hand, his grip strong and steady, and together we disappeared into the shadows, the sound of pursuit growing louder behind us. We ran through the forest for what felt like hours, branches scratching at our faces and roots threatening to trip us at every step. Behind us, the sounds of pursuit never fully faded. Dogs barking, men shouting coordinates, engines rumbling in the distance. Ronnie kept a firm grip on my hand, pulling me forward whenever I stumbled or slowed down. "There," he whispered sharply, pointing to a rocky outcropping ahead. "We can hide there until they pass." We scrambled behind the rocks, pressing ourselves into the shadows. I tried to control my breathing, but my lungs were burning and my heart was pounding so hard I thought they might hear it. Ronnie positioned himself in front of me protectively, his body tense and ready to fight if necessary. Flashlight beams swept through the trees, coming dangerously close to our hiding spot. I heard voices, harsh, professional, coordinated, spread out. They couldn't have gotten far. "The Omega is pregnant. He'll slow them down." My blood ran cold. They knew. They knew everything. Ronnie's hand found mine in the darkness and squeezed once a silent message to stay calm and stay quiet. We waited, barely breathing as the searchers passed within 20 feet of us. It felt like an eternity before the lights finally moved away, heading deeper into the forest in the wrong direction. "They'll realize their mistake soon," Ronnie whispered. "We need to move now." We emerged from hiding and changed direction, heading east instead of north. Ronnie explained in hushed tones that his original plan was compromised. Someone had leaked information about the safe house. We needed a new destination and fast. After another hour of difficult terrain, we reached an old service road where a motorcycle was hidden under a tarp. "Backup plan," Ronnie said simply, uncovering it. "It's not comfortable, but it's fast and hard to track." I'd never been on a motorcycle before, and the thought of it while pregnant terrified me. But the alternative was worse. I climbed on behind Ronnie, wrapping my arms around his waist and holding on tightly. The engine roared to life and we took off into the night. The ride was brutal. Cold wind cutting through my jacket, every bump in the road jarring my already exhausted body. But Ronnie drove with skill and precision, navigating back roads and trails I didn't even know existed. Gradually the sounds of pursuit faded completely. We'd lost them, at least for now. We finally stopped at an abandoned hunting cabin deep in the mountains, far from any main roads or towns. "This place has been forgotten for years," Ronnie said as we dismounted. "No one knows about it except me. We'll be safe here for a few days while I arrange new transportation." Inside, the cabin was dusty and cold, but structurally sound. Ronnie immediately set about making it livable, starting a fire in the old stone fireplace, checking for any signs of recent visitors, securing all entry points. I collapsed onto a worn couch, every muscle in my body screaming with exhaustion. "You did well tonight," Ronnie said, bringing me a bottle of water from his pack. "Most people would have panicked or given up. You kept moving." "I didn't have much choice," I replied, accepting the water gratefully. "But thank you for getting us out of there, for not leaving me behind." Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe, or discomfort with gratitude. "I told you I'd protect you. I meant it." Over the next few days, a strange routine developed. Ronnie would leave at dawn to scout the area and make contact with his network, always returning before sunset with supplies or information. I spent my time resting, trying to regain my strength, and worrying about what came next. The cabin felt like a temporary bubble, separate from the dangerous world hunting us. But one evening, Ronnie returned looking worse than I'd ever seen him. Blood stained his jacket, his knuckles were raw and bruised, and he was favoring his left side heavily. He tried to walk past me like nothing was wrong, heading straight for the bathroom. "Stop," I said, standing up and blocking his path. "You're hurt." "It's nothing," he insisted, but his voice was weaker than usual. "Just a few scratches from dealing with some trackers who got too close." "Ronnie, you're bleeding through your shirt." "That's not nothing." I reached for his jacket, and he winced. "Please, let me help you." He hesitated, clearly uncomfortable with being vulnerable, but finally nodded. "Fine, but make it quick." I carefully removed his jacket and shirt, revealing a deep gash across his shoulder that was still actively bleeding. My stomach turned at the sight, but I forced myself to focus. I retrieved the first aid kit from his pack and set to work cleaning the wound. "This needs stitches," I said quietly, examining the cut more closely. "But I can at least stop the bleeding and bandage it properly." "You know first aid?" Ronnie asked, watching me work with an intense gaze that made me self-conscious. "The facility taught us basic medical skills. They wanted us to be able to care for ourselves during pregnancy without constant supervision." I applied antiseptic, and he hissed at the sting but didn't pull away. It's one of the few useful things I learned there. We fell into silence as I worked, my hands steady despite the circumstances. There was something intimate about caring for someone like this. Seeing them vulnerable, touching them with purpose and gentleness. I tried not to think about it too much. "Why are you doing this?" Ronnie asked suddenly, his voice soft. I paused, meeting his eyes. "Because you got hurt protecting me. Because you've risked everything to keep me safe, and you don't deserve to suffer because of it." I returned to bandaging his shoulder, and because despite everything, I don't want to see you in pain. Ronnie was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached out and gently caught my wrist, stopping my movements. "Liam, I need you to understand something. What I'm doing, helping you, protecting you, it's not just about the mission anymore. It's not just about exposing Genesis Labs or doing the right thing." My heart started beating faster. "Then what is it about?" He struggled with the words, clearly unused to expressing emotions. "You're alone. Pregnant, running from people who want to use you and your baby as experiments. That's wrong on every level. And somewhere between finding you in my cabin and running through that forest with you tonight, I stopped seeing you as just another case." He looked directly into my eyes. "I started seeing you as someone worth protecting for your own sake. Not because it's strategic, not because of what you represent, because you matter." The honesty in his voice hit me like a physical force. No one had ever said anything like that to me before. "Ronnie, I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," he replied, releasing my wrist. "Just rest. Tomorrow we move again. The trackers know we're in this area now, and it won't take them long to tam their search grid." He stood up carefully, testing his injured shoulder, then headed toward the small bedroom. I watched him go, my emotions a confused tangle of fear, gratitude, and something deeper I wasn't ready to name. For the first time in 6 months, I wasn't just surviving. I was beginning to hope, and that terrified me more than anything. We left the mountain cabin before sunrise, traveling on foot through terrain too rough for any vehicle. Ronnie had contacts who could provide new transportation, but we had to reach the meeting point first. A small town 50 miles away where questions weren't asked, and cash was the only currency that mattered. The journey was grueling. My pregnant body protested every steep climb and treacherous descent, but I refused to complain or slow us down more than necessary. Ronnie adjusted his pace for me without comment, sometimes offering a steadying hand over particularly difficult sections. His shoulder was still healing, and I could see him wince occasionally, but he never mentioned the pain. By late afternoon, we reached the outskirts of the town, a collection of weathered buildings and suspicious residents who valued privacy above all else. Ronnie led me to a small motel that looked like it hadn't been updated since the 70s. He paid cash for a room, and the clerk didn't even ask for identification. The room was small but clean enough. One bed, a chair that had seen better days, a tiny bathroom with a shower that probably only produced lukewarm water. Ronnie locked the door behind us and immediately checked the windows. testing the locks and examining sight lines. "Rest while you can," he said, drawing the curtains closed. "I need to make contact with my source and arrange our next move. I'll be back in a few hours." "Wait." I caught his sleeve before he could leave. "You're exhausted too. You've barely slept in days. Can't you rest for just a little while?" He turned to look at me, and I saw the fatigue written clearly in the lines of his face and the shadows under his eyes. "Your safety comes first, Liam. Everything else is secondary." "I won't be safe if you collapse from exhaustion," I pointed out. "Please. Just an hour. Sit down, close your eyes. The world won't end if you take a break." Something in my tone must have reached him because he sighed and moved to the chair instead of the door. "1 hour. Then I have to go." "Deal." I sat on the edge of the bed, relieved that he was at least taking a minimal break. "Can I ask you something?" "Depends on what it is," he replied, leaning back in the chair and closing his eyes. "How did you become a hunter? This doesn't seem like the kind of career someone just stumbles into." Ronnie was silent for so long I thought he might have fallen asleep. But then he spoke, his voice low and distant. "I was military first. Special operations. Did things I'm not proud of in places most people have never heard of. When I got out, I didn't know what to do with myself. Civilian life felt wrong. Too quiet. Too ordinary." "So you started hunting people instead?" I tried to keep judgment out of my voice. "I started tracking criminals who escaped justice through legal loopholes or corruption. People who hurt others and got away with it. At first, it felt like I was still serving a purpose, still making a difference." He opened his eyes and looked at me. "But the lines blur over time. The jobs get morally complicated. And suddenly you're not sure if you're one of the good guys anymore. Is that why you're helping me? To prove you're still one of the good guys?" "Maybe partly," he admitted. "But it's more than that now. You've made me question things I stopped questioning years ago. What's worth fighting for? What lines shouldn't be crossed? What it means to actually protect someone instead of just completing a mission." The vulnerability in his words surprised me. This alpha who seemed so controlled and distant was revealing depths I hadn't expected. "For what it's worth, I think you're a good person, Ronnie. A good person in a complicated situation, but still good." He smiled slightly, barely visible, but genuine. "You might be the only one who thinks that." Night fell, and Ronnie eventually left to meet his contact. I tried to rest, but sleep wouldn't come. My mind raced with worries and what-ifs. What if his source betrayed him? What if Genesis Labs found us? What if something happened to Ronnie and I was alone again? I was staring at the ceiling when the baby kicked hard, insistent as if reminding me why I had to keep fighting. I placed my hand on my stomach and whispered, "I know. I'm scared too, but we're going to be okay." Somehow, when Ronnie returned hours later, he looked even more tired but also determined. "Transportation is arranged. We leave at dawn. There's a safe house across the state line. Actually safe this time. My contact verified it personally." "That's good news," I said, sitting up. "So why do you look worried?" "Because the price for that safe passage is information. My contact wants details about Genesis Labs. Locations, personnel, operations. Information that could put you in more danger if it falls into the wrong hands. But it could also help shut them down," I pointed out. "Isn't that what we want?" "What I want is to keep you alive," Ronnie said firmly. "Everything else comes second to that. But you're right, this information could help others still trapped there. It's your choice, Liam. I'll support whatever you decide." I thought about the other Omegas I'd left behind. The ones who weren't lucky enough to have someone help them escape. The ones who were still being used as experiments and breeding stock. Give him the information. If there's even a chance it helps someone else, we have to try. Ronnie nodded slowly. "All right, but we do it carefully. Limited information. No names that could trace back to you. And the moment it feels wrong, we walk away." That night I couldn't sleep despite my exhaustion. I lay on the bed, staring at the dark ceiling, listening to Ronnie's steady breathing from the chair where he'd insisted on keeping watch. The baby was active, moving and kicking, making my discomfort even worse. "Liam?" Ronnie's voice came from the darkness. "You awake?" "Yeah. Sorry. Did I disturb you?" "No. I wasn't sleeping." I heard him shift in the chair. "Are you okay?" The genuine concern in his voice broke something in me. "I'm scared," I admitted, my voice cracking. I'm scared we won't make it. I'm scared they'll catch us. I'm scared this baby will be born into danger and never know safety. I'm just so scared all the time and I hate it. There was movement. And then Ronnie was sitting on the edge of the bed, his presence solid and reassuring in the darkness. Fear is normal. It means you're human, that you care about what happens. Don't hate yourself for feeling it. How do you deal with it? The fear, the uncertainty, I focus on what I can control. He said, right now I can control keeping you safe tonight. Tomorrow I'll worry about tomorrow. That's all any of us can do. I felt tears sliding down my cheeks, the emotional weight of everything finally overwhelming me. I don't want to be alone in this anymore. Ronnie's hand found mine in the darkness, his grip warm and steady. You're not alone. I'm here and I'm not going anywhere. Whatever happens next, we face it together. His words settled something in me, easing the panic that had been building. I didn't pull my hand away, and neither did he. We sat there in the darkness, connected by that simple touch, and for the first time in months, I felt like maybe, just maybe, everything would actually be okay. The safe house Ronnie's contact provided turned out to be an isolated farmhouse surrounded by acres of empty fields. It had clearly been abandoned for years before being repurposed as a refuge for people like us. People running from powerful enemies who wouldn't stop until they got what they wanted. We can stay here as long as we need, Ronnie explained as we did a thorough check of the property. It's off-grid, self-sufficient, and the previous owner made sure it was invisible to satellite surveillance. As secure as we're going to get. The first few days were spent establishing routines and fortifying our position. Ronnie set up security measures, motion sensors around the perimeter, cameras at key points, escape routes planned and practiced. I focused on making the space livable, cleaning years of dust and neglect, organizing our limited supplies. But something was shifting between us. The walls Ronnie had maintained since we met were beginning to crack. He talked more, shared stories from his past that revealed the man behind the hunter persona. I learned about his family, a younger sister he'd lost to violence he couldn't prevent, parents who died thinking he'd wasted his life on revenge. Those losses had shaped him, driven him to become someone who protected others because he'd failed to protect those he loved most. In turn, I opened up about my time at Genesis Labs in ways I never had before. The medical procedures that violated every ethical boundary, the psychological manipulation designed to make us compliant, the other Omegas I'd befriended and lost. Ronnie listened to all of it without judgment, his anger directed at those who'd hurt me rather than pity for my suffering. Weeks passed in relative peace. It was the longest I'd felt safe since my escape. Ronnie maintained his vigilance, going out periodically to check for threats and gather intelligence on Genesis Labs' search efforts. But when he was home, he was present in ways I hadn't expected, cooking meals, maintaining the property, even researching pregnancy nutrition to make sure I was eating properly. One evening, I was sitting on the porch watching the sunset when I felt the baby move more strongly than usual. It wasn't painful, just intense, a reminder of how real this all was, how much was at stake. Ronnie, I called out, sudden nervousness making my voice shake. Can you come here? He appeared instantly, alert for danger. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. I hesitated, unsure how to ask. The baby's moving a lot right now. Do you want to feel it? His expression shifted through several emotions. Surprise, uncertainty, something that might have been longing. Are you sure? I don't want to overstep. Unsure. I guided his hand to my stomach, placing it where the movements were strongest. Right there. Just wait. We stood there in the fading light, Ronnie's large hand warm against my stomach. Then the baby kicked. Strong and unmistakable. Ronnie's eyes widened, his whole face transforming with wonder. It was the most unguarded expression I'd ever seen from him. That's incredible, he breathed. I mean, I knew intellectually that this was happening, but feeling it is completely different. There's actually a life in there. A whole person. Yeah, I said softly, watching his face. A whole person who exists because of horrific circumstances but who deserves a chance at life anyway. That's why I keep fighting. Not for me anymore. For them. Ronnie's eyes met mine, and what I saw there made my breath catch. It wasn't just protectiveness or duty. It was something deeper, more personal. This baby is lucky to have you as a parent, he said quietly. You've sacrificed everything to give them a chance. That's real love. I'm terrified I won't be enough, I admitted. That I'll mess everything up because I have no idea what I'm doing. No one knows what they're doing with their first child, Ronnie replied. But you've already proven you'll do whatever it takes to protect them. That's the most important thing. His hand was still on my stomach, and I covered it with my own. Thank you for being here, for helping us. I know this wasn't what you signed up for when you found me in your cabin. Maybe it's exactly what I needed, Ronnie said. A reason to be better than I've been. A chance to actually save someone instead of just tracking them down. The moment stretched between us, charged with unspoken feelings and possibilities. Then Ronnie stepped back, breaking the connection. I should check the perimeter before it gets fully dark. Make sure everything's secure. I nodded, understanding that he needed distance to process whatever he was feeling. Be careful out there. That night, I lay in bed unable to sleep despite exhaustion. My mind kept replaying that moment on the porch. Ronnie's hand on my stomach, the wonder in his eyes, the connection that had felt so natural and right. I was developing feelings for him, real feelings that went beyond gratitude or dependence. That realization both thrilled and terrified me. Around midnight, I heard Ronnie return. He moved quietly through the house, checking locks and windows as he did every night. Then he paused outside my door. Liam? His voice was soft. You still awake? Yeah. Can't sleep. The door opened slightly and Ronnie's silhouette appeared. Mind if I come in? Please do. He entered and sat in the chair by the window, his usual watch position. I've been thinking about what you said earlier, about being scared you won't be enough for this baby. And I want you to know that you won't have to do this alone. Not if you don't want to. He leaned forward, his face serious in the moonlight. I know I'm just the hunter who happened to find you. I know we've only known each other a few weeks, but somewhere in all of this, you've become important to me. You and this baby both. My heart started racing. Ronnie, what are you saying? I'm saying that when this is over, when Genesis Labs is exposed and you're free, I want to be part of your life. If you'll have me. He took a breath. I want to help raise this child. I want to be there for both of you, not just as a protector but as family. Tears spilled down my cheeks. You really mean that? I've never meant anything more. He moved to sit on the edge of the bed, his hand finding mine. I know I'm not perfect. I've done things I'm not proud of, but I swear I will spend every day trying to be worthy of the trust you've placed in me. I pulled him closer, wrapping my arms around him and burying my face against his chest. His heartbeat was steady and strong, a rhythm I'd come to associate with safety and home. You already are worthy, I whispered. You saved my life, Ronnie. You've given me hope when I had none. How could you be anything but worthy? He held me tightly, one hand cradling the back of my head, the other resting protectively over my stomach. Then we're in this together. All three of us. Whatever comes next, we face it as a family. In that moment, everything changed. We weren't just survivor and protector anymore. We were something more, something neither of us had planned but both of us desperately needed. And as I drifted off to sleep in his arms, I finally believed that maybe we actually would be okay. That maybe this baby would grow up knowing love and safety. That maybe broken people could build something beautiful together. The road ahead was still dangerous. Genesis Labs wouldn't stop hunting us. But for the first time, I wasn't just running from something. I was running towards something, a future, a family, a life worth fighting for.